Hello friends, imagine walking across a forgotten land and suddenly stumbling upon the ruins of a lost world. A world buried in silence for thousands of years. In the year 1827, a soldier of the British East India Company, James Lewis, decided he had had enough of the company's harsh life. Tired of the endless grind, he deserted the army and chose a different path. To hide his identity, he changed his name and began following his true passion, traveling. After wandering across the Indian subcontinent for 2 long years, he reached the Punjab region in 1829. There he stumbled upon something extraordinary, the ruins of an ancient, forgotten city. He had no clue how old those ruins were or which civilization they had belonged to. Lewis was a man deeply fascinated by history. He did what few people would even think of doing at the time. He began documenting what he saw, filling his notes with careful sketches and drawings. Those very drawings survive today, giving us a glimpse of what first caught his eye. What Lewis did not know was that he had rediscovered one of the most important cities in human history, Harappa. His quiet discovery would go unnoticed for decades, and it was only 100 years later, in the 1920s, that the true magnitude of what he had found would finally be revealed. By then, John Marshall had become the director of the Archaeological Survey of India. Alongside brilliant Indian archaeologists, he began to properly study the ruins of Harappa. What they found shocked the world. This ancient city was more than 5,000 years old. And not just that, another site was discovered along the banks of the mighty Indus River, a place littered with human remains. This site was called Mohenjo, Daro, the Mound of the Dead. As more and more excavations were carried out, entire networks of ancient ruins surfaced, unveiling the presence of a civilization completely unknown till then. Because the settlements were discovered near the Indus River, this newly uncovered world was named the Indus Valley Civilization. Today, centuries later, children learn about it in their schoolbooks, and historians study it with awe. We know many things about this great civilization, yet two mysteries remain unsolved. The first is the language of the Harappans, the script they carved into stone, copper, and pottery, which no one has been able to decode. The second is the mystery of their sudden end. What happened to a civilization so advanced and powerful? Why did it vanish without leaving behind clear answers? The Indus Valley Civilization was one of the earliest Bronze Age civilizations, stretching across modern-day Pakistan, Afghanistan, and northwest India. Over 1,400 sites have been discovered so far, with nearly 900 lying within India. It was one of only a handful of civilizations that thrived during that period, alongside the Egyptians, Mesopotamians, and Chinese. While Mesopotamia is often called the earliest civilization, research in recent years suggests that the Indus Valley might have been even older. In 2016, scientists from IIT Karagar and the Archaeological Survey of India carried out studies that indicated the civilization could date back as far as 8,000 years. Evidence of farming settlements from as early as 7,000 BC has been discovered in Haryana. These early farmers laid the foundation of what would later become one of the world's most sophisticated societies. By 2600 BC, the Indus cities were astonishingly advanced. They had multi-story brick houses, carefully designed with standardized bricks of uniform size. Each house had its own toilet, bathing area, and a private drainage system that connected 2 larger sewers under the streets. Roads were lined with covered drains, shaded by trees, and dotted with public wells and even dustbins. Urban planning was on a level that many of our modern cities still struggle to match. And yet, despite all this progress, one wall separates us from them: their language. Over 4,000 inscribed artifacts have been found across Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro, and other sites. These include stone seals, tablets, and copper plates etched with strange symbols, now called the Indus Script. Archaeologists have attempted more than 100 times to decode it, but to this day, no one has succeeded. Some things, however, are certain. The script was written from right to left, unlike English or Hindi, which begin on the left. How do we know this? Because on many seals, The symbols on the left are squeezed together, as though the engraver ran out of space while writing. Just like when we cram our words into the margin of a notebook, the same happened thousands of years ago on these stone seals. Another fascinating feature is that inscriptions are almost always accompanied by the image of an animal. Bulls, elephants, tigers, rhinoceroses, and most frequently, a strange unicorn-like creature that might never have existed in reality. Why were animals always carved beneath the writing? Was it symbolic, religious? We do not know. And though you might imagine these seals to be large, most were tiny, barely a few centimeters wide, small enough to fit in your palm. Scholars have identified more than 400 unique signs in the script. To give you perspective, English has only 26 alphabets. Many of these Indus signs resemble stick figures, fish, birds, and insects. Because of their variety, historians believe the script was logosyllabic symbols representing entire words or sounds. Egyptian hieroglyphs worked in a similar way, and unlike the Indus script, they were eventually decoded thanks to the discovery of the Rosetta Stone, which had the same text written in both Greek and hieroglyphs. That stone was like an ancient version of Google Translate, and without something similar for the Indus Valley, their language remains locked away forever. Even so, researchers have discovered intriguing patterns. For example, in English we can easily find words beginning with Washington or Y, but almost none beginning with WQ or WZ. Similarly, the Indus script shows certain repeating rules. One symbol always follows another, while some never appear together. One jar-shaped sign appears more frequently than any other and almost always at the end of a sentence, suggesting it might have been their version of a full stop. The biggest surprise came when Indus script was found far away, in Mesopotamia. This discovery proved not only that the Indus people traded with other civilizations, but also that their script may have been borrowed by Mesopotamians to write their own language. That is why certain patterns appear in Mesopotamian examples, but never in Indus Valley ones, much like how we sometimes write Hindi using the English alphabet. Friends, before I tell you about the breathtaking structures of their cities, let me pause for a moment. If you find yourself fascinated by these mysteries, just imagine how many more hidden truths lie waiting to be discovered. If you want me to keep bringing you stories like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. It takes just a second, but it helps this channel survive and grow. And who knows, maybe one day we will solve these ancient mysteries together. Now, back to the Indus cities. Every city on Earth so far follows a similar design. There were always two distinct parts: the lower town, surrounded by walls, and the upper town or citadel, built on higher ground, usually to the west. The citadel held important spaces like marketplaces and workshops, and its walls served not against enemies, but to protect against floods and wild animals. Unlike Egypt and Mesopotamia, there is no evidence of temples, palaces, royal tombs, or even armies. No kings, no priests, no monuments glorifying rulers. It almost seems as though these people lived without hierarchy, without war, and possibly without organized religion, a society far ahead of its time. Among the ruins of Mohenjo Daro stands one of the civilization's greatest marvels, the Great Bath, a massive pool built with burnt bricks and waterproofed with natural tar, complete with steps, drains, and a well that supplied fresh water. With an area of 900 square feet and a depth of almost 2.5 meters, this was no ordinary pool. It symbolized a culture that valued cleanliness, community, and order. Imagine such advanced civic amenities existing more than 4,000 years ago. But what makes this story both fascinating and heartbreaking is the question that still haunts historians: what happened to this great civilization? Archaeological records show that between 1900 BC and 1300 BC, the cities began to decline rapidly. Urban planning broke down, sewers were left clogged, the Great Bath filled with waste, and trade with Mesopotamia collapsed. By 1800 BC, most cities were abandoned. The language, the standardized weights, the bricks all vanished. The people simply disappeared into history. There are theories. One suggests that the river they depended upon, possibly the Saraswati, dried up, forcing them to migrate eastwards towards the Ganga plains. Another blames deforestation, arguing that their need for bricks and farmland destroyed the environment beyond repair. A third theory points to disease, perhaps malaria or cholera, wiping out huge portions of the population. Whatever the truth, by 600 BC, the Indus Valley Civilization was gone, swallowed by time, leaving behind only its ruins and unanswered questions. For nearly 5,000 years, they thrived longer than any modern civilization has existed. And yet, they met an ill-fated end. New cities rose over their remains, new cultures were born on top of theirs. Until one day, a wandering soldier named James Lewis rediscovered what had been lost. Friends, the story of the Indus Valley Civilization is not just about bricks, baths, or seals. It is about us, about how fragile even the greatest societies can be. It is a reminder that no matter how powerful we think we are today, time eventually humbles everything. What do you think happened to the people of this forgotten world? Was it nature, disease, or something else entirely? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to read what you believe. And together, perhaps we can keep alive the memory of one of humanity's greatest mysteries.